and be free. You look back at the season from hell that the Fever had. None of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close game.
Okay, get this. Caitlyn Clark just completely flipped the script on every single hater and every so-called analyst who totally wrote her off. A Fever insider is confirming, right now, that Caitlyn Clark is fully 100% healed from that groin injury. Guys, for this insane update, the Indiana Fever, they're actually heading to the WNBA Finals. And Clark herself just confirmed, "I'm suiting up." Yeah, you absolutely heard that right, she's back. And trust me, this changes everything, putting the entire league on absolute notice. Now, the big question is, if you were Indiana's coach, would you risk playing Caitlyn Clark in the finals?
When she does come back, do you feel like
I would not want to play the Indiana Fever, especially with a healthy Caitlyn. I mean, that building, I got a little taste of it last year. And doing the Final Four, shows when she's on the court, when someone can really change the game in a couple moments like she could be quiet for 10 minutes and then pop, 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 it's 4 threes and the game's out of reach. And I think what the Fever are doing without her, that's going to help them in the future too, knowing that they can win a game when she's not on the court or she's not, at her best. So yeah, that Fever team, I would not want to play them with a healthy Caitlyn.
The Indiana Fever, let's be real, weren't even supposed to be here. Not this year. Not with all the injuries, their young roster, and the constant hot take saying they just needed more time. Analysts basically penciled them in as fringe playoff hopefuls at best. And then, when Caitlyn Clark went down with that groin injury, the so-called experts didn't even bother sharpening their pencils, they just slammed the book shut on Indiana right there. But here's the thing, the Fever never got that memo. Instead of collapsing, they clawed their way through the absolute toughest part of their season. Aaliyah Boston stepped up and started dominating the paint like she was back at South Carolina. Kelsey Mitchell reminded everyone why her nickname is Money Mitch, burying jumpers when the game was truly hanging in the balance. And Odyssey Sims looked like she'd been waiting her entire career for this exact playoff run, calming the young roster while making the kind of hustle plays that don't always show up in the box score, but absolutely swing entire series. And now, after all that grit and grind, Indiana finds itself in the WNBA Finals, which is already historic, by the way. But then came the announcement that just took the entire sports world by storm, Caitlyn Clark herself confirming she will play in the final. Understand how absolutely absurd that is for a second. The very same media that insisted her year was over now has to completely backtrack. And the same haters who literally laughed when she limped off the court now have to watch her come back on the league's biggest stage. Clark didn't just return, she returned in the moment where it matters most. And trust me, this is more than just a storyline. It's a full-blown power shift. Because Clark's presence instantly transforms Indiana. Before she was hurt, the Fever weren't just competing, they were drawing record ratings, selling out arenas, and forcing every single opponent to gameplan completely differently. Her shooting stretches defenses out to the parking lot. Her vision opens up insane lanes for Boston and Mitch. And her leadership raises the confidence of absolutely everyone wearing that Fever jersey, and now all of that is back. Let's not sugarcoat it, the haters are rattled. For months they've been chirping about how the league is bigger than Clark, how she can't handle the physicality, how she's not ready for the playoffs. And they were absolutely giddy when she went down. But now they're in shock, because Clark didn't just return, she confirmed she's suiting up in the final. That's like dropping a live grenade into the middle of every rival fanbase's living room, and the timing couldn't be worse for Vegas or New York, the two so-called super teams. They were already sweating after Indiana bulldozed their way through the playoffs without Clark. And now they have to face a Fever squad that's not only fearless, but suddenly reloaded with the very player who completely changes the geometry of the game. See, it's not just about what Clark does on the stat sheet. Even if she's at 80%, her gravity shifts everything. Defenses can't ignore her. They can't collapse on Boston without paying the price. And they can't send extra help on Mitchell without leaving Clark wide open. Every single possession becomes a nightmare of choices, and honestly, none of those choices are good, and just think about the psychological hit this delivers to those so-called powerhouses. They thought they'd dodged the bullet. They thought Clark was gone out of sight, out of mind. Then Indiana proves they don't even need her to reach the finals. And just when those teams are bracing to face Boston, Mitchell, and Sims alone, boom, Clark is back in the mix. That's demoralizing before the ball even tips, but here's the real kicker: this wasn't just luck. Indiana played the long game. The Fever only submitted 11 players for their playoff roster when the league actually allows 12. At the time, most people thought it was an oversight, or just a depth issue, but now it looks like a masterstroke. That empty slot gave them incredible flexibility. It kept the door cracked open, and now Clark is walking right through it. That's the kind of foresight that tells you the Fever front office knew exactly what they were doing. They never fully ruled Clark out. They played cold, let the speculation swirl, and then dropped the bombshell at the absolute perfect moment. And that, my friends, isn't just strategy, it's pure showmanship. And now, let's quickly talk about the rules that actually made this possible. Under WNBA guidelines, playoff rosters lock once the regular season ends, meaning no more hardship contracts, no more emergency signings. What you submit is what you ride with. But there's a crucial exception: players under contract who are listed as inactive, whether from injury, suspension, or maternity leave, can technically be reactivated if a spot opens or if the team simply leaves a slot unfilled, and that is exactal.
Walks there to the stanchion.
Now, of course, there are risks involved here. Nobody's pretending groin injuries are easy. They linger, they flare up, they absolutely test your conditioning. The Fever are definitely playing with fire by bringing her back, and they know it, but here's the thing: even a limited Clark still commands insane respect. You could literally put her on one leg, and teams would still guard her 25 feet from the basket. And that kind of presence alone is totally worth the gamble, and make no mistake, this isn't just Indiana's decision. You better believe the league office has fingerprints all over this. Because the WNBA isn't blind, they know Clark's presence in the finals means eyeballs, revenue, and relevance like they've simply never had before. This isn't just basketball, it's straight up business. And from a business standpoint, Clark coming back is pure gold. The fans feel that, too. Social media is already absolutely exploding. Clips of Clark practicing are racking up millions of views. And the announcement of her return got more traction than half the league's playoff games combined. Love her or hate her, everyone is talking about Caitlyn Clark, and for a league desperate to keep the national conversation alive, that's priceless. But let's not let the league completely off the hook, either. The fact that praising Clark has gotten other coaches cited, or even allegedly cost jobs, tells you everything you need to know about the fragile egos floating around. Clark is bigger than the WNBA right now, and that makes some people seriously uncomfortable. So her return in the finals doesn't just spotlight her, it exposes the league's insecurities all over again. Still, the Fever don't care about politics. They care about winning. And with Clark back, their ceiling just went completely through the roof. Aaliyah Boston has more room to dominate inside. Mitchell can play freer on the perimeter. Sims doesn't have to carry as heavy a load. And even role players like Sophie Cunningham suddenly become more dangerous because defenses simply can't cover everyone. This is precisely why opponents are terrified. The Fever already proved they could scrap and claw their way to the finals without Clark. And now they're adding back the most impactful player in women's basketball. That's not just scary, that's unfair, and the haters? They are officially out of excuses. For months, they said Clark was overhyped, that she couldn't back it up against pros. But, well, here she is, suiting up for the finals in her second year. Not limping in through the back door, not riding the bench as a cheerleader, but playing, competing, and completely changing the entire dynamic of the series. It's almost poetic. The same people who spent the season downplaying her impact now have to watch her step right back into the spotlight on the grandest stage. The receipts are endless, and Fever fans are more than happy to pull them out. The real shock here isn't just that Caitlyn Clark is coming back, it's how perfectly timed this strategic move is. Finals basketball isn't about regular season stats or pretty plays. It's about making the moment bigger than your opponent can handle. And let's be real, Clark has lived in the spotlight since Iowa. Crowds, pressure, cameras, it's just Tuesday for her. When you add someone with that kind of poise into the finals, you're not just adding a shooter or a passer. You're adding pure gravity. Every defender has to glance at her. Every coach has to scheme for her. And every fan has to react to her. That changes the environment before she even touches the ball. Vegas and New York? They just went from confident to paranoid overnight. Think about what this means for Indiana's core. Aaliyah Boston, who's already bullying defenses on the block, now gets more single coverage. No more constant double teams. Kelsey Mitchell can actually breathe on the perimeter, instead of being trapped every other possession. And Odyssey Sims, she can spend less energy creating, and more energy disrupting. That's what Clark's presence truly unlocks. Now, this isn't to say she'll play 35 minutes and drop 40 points. Nobody's expecting that. But what matters is that she doesn't have to. Even 20 minutes of Clark shifts the math. Even just standing in the corner, she changes how defenses rotate, and that's why her return feels like a plot twist written for television, because it basically is. The WNBA is salivating right now. Finals without Clark? A solid storyline. Finals with Clark? A national event. Broadcasters are already prepping the graphics. Networks are clearing primetime slots. And casual fans who haven't watched a single regular season game are about to tune in just to see what happens, and that, my friends, is the part that burns the haters most. Her return is bigger than them. The excuses are already loading up online. She's overrated. She won't be at full speed. Indiana will ruin chemistry by forcing her back in. But here's the thing, those excuses don't matter when the scoreboard lights up. If Clark makes even a handful of impact plays in the finals, the entire conversation flips. Suddenly, the same critics are forced to explain how the overrated player just helped Indiana compete with the league's absolute best. But here's the other side of the coin. Let's be blunt, if Clark comes back and looks rusty, the critics will absolutely pounce. If she re-injures herself, the narrative will be ruthless. That's why this move takes serious guts. Indiana could have played it safe, protected her